Hello, my name is Keith Bleasbourne, and welcome to the Golden Giraffe podcast. Beyond the Mask is one of the programmes behind iPlenary.com, which was featured in a previous Golden Giraffe interview. In this, the second of a series of 2 interviews, I talked with Becky, who has achieved so much that apart from improving her confidence and attitude, she now owns a car and has a full-time job. And listen out for the orange analogy at the end, it's priceless. I started by asking Becky how and why did she first get involved with Beyond the Mask.
Why? I'll answer why first, if that's okay. By a pure accident and because I was bored, is the honest answer. I was volunteering at the children's centre. My life was rubbish, absolutely rubbish. I lived in a violent marriage, got 4 children who, were behaving how 4 children that are involved in a violent home would behave. Not very well. I've always had this ambition to do something. Always knew that I could achieve more than what I ever have. Had a very, very bad childhood, and followed all statistics and went on to become a victim in later life by sort of being in that violent relationship. Moved all the way around the country. I was born in London originally, and then moved to Hertfordshire, Oxfordshire. I had a very good Oxfordshire education. Then moved to Staffordshire to sort of, break away from the southern area because of that, because of the amount of abuse I'd suffered there. So I'd sort of come up here being very new to the area, very new to Stoke and Staffordshire, not really knowing what I wanted to do. Met this man. He was the first sort of man that came along, really. I was very low, had no self-confidence, no self-esteem whatsoever. Came into the children's centre originally because one of my third son had a sleep disorder. I didn't know anything about the centre. And then as sort of my family support started to work, they started to sort of uncover lots about what was going on at home. And it sort of came to a head last year, early last year, when my children were put on the child protection register, which was awful, absolutely awful for me, because I love my children and I didn't know how to get out of the situation I was in. I was completely lost, totally. So sort of after volunteering here, this whole, I actually did my Beyond the Mask sessions through the Tyro Foundry. They were running the Tyro Foundry, which incorporated the arts and things as well with the Arts Council. And I was just told about it in one of the community groups that I attended at the time. And I just thought, when I looked at the leaflet, I thought, oh, I don't really think that's for me because, it was T-shirt making and birthday card making, and I'm not that kind of person. I love creative writing and things like that, but sort of that hands-on arty crafty stuff just isn't me. And I'd heard about Nigel before from some of the staff that work at the centre. I'd heard about how fantastic he was. I thought I was very indifferent really about him. I just very indifferent. So came the interview, the informal chat, because we don't like to say interviews. The informal chat day came, and I'd actually was sat at home and I'd had a panic attack and couldn't come into the centre. So I had to get somebody to come and collect me, otherwise I wouldn't have come in. I came into this room, actually, this room we're sat in, was when I first officially met Nigel. And to be honest, I didn't like him. I didn't like him at all. But then I was a completely different person then, so I can't possibly comment on how he felt about me at that point. But I was very brash, very indifferent, quite arsey, if I'm allowed to say that. So, I was sort of probably wasn't nice to sort of have an informal chat with. I think I was hard work. And Nigel sort of said, within 6 weeks, he would, the programme would change my life. And I can remember laughing and saying, whatever.
You didn't believe it?
Absolutely not. No, there was no way. I'd been through sort of child psychologists as a young child. I'd been in a secure adolescence unit because of issues when I was younger. I'd had sort of psychiatrists and psychologists for depression and anxiety as an adult, and nothing had worked. So I just kind of saw this as just
something.
Yeah, just another thing. Yeah, whatever. And I can remember walking out with the lady who brought me into to chat with Nigel and saying to her, we'll see, whatever. And I kind of guessed from then I made it my personal mission to prove Nigel wrong. To prove that he wouldn't succeed with me. That this wasn't going to work. That was my mindset. And the minute I walked out the room, I didn't like him. I thought it was a money-making scam that just fooled people. And that's how I felt, really strongly, that would be the case. And, I was just another statistic. I would just be another box that would be ticked. So I refused to be one of those in my own head.
So what happened? Did you have a sort of a ha-ha moment or a sudden realisation or something like that?
I had a huge aha moment. It was quite intense, actually. It was the second session that we did. The second session. The first session, I'm sure if anybody had a conversation with Nigel, he'd tell you that I was the biggest pain in his backside throughout the programme. I really was quite obnoxious, cantankerous, and just quite argumentative, I think, to a certain point. The second session we did, the first session I was so intent on what a load of rubbish, The second session, Nigel said something, and I like to use sort of visual descriptions about how I'm feeling, visual analogies about how I'm feeling. It helps me to describe things. And Nigel had spoken about this, somebody switching the light on. And at that point, I sort of kind of listened. I listened to what he was saying because it was something that, to me, that I understood. When people describe things like that, I can visualise it.
Presumably, it went along the lines of, how do you see in a dark room? You turn the lights on.
Yeah, it was, Nigel has shown me, but what I very quickly realised then was that Nigel wasn't going to change my life.
No, he wasn't.
No, but he was going to give me the skills to do it myself. And that's the bit where that I completely misunderstood at the informal chat. I thought this man was going to make everything better, but in a completely different way to what he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's quite kind of why he stuck to his guarantee with me and didn't give up on me. He really was quite adamant that, it was kind of a battle. It was quite adamant that, yes, she will get something out of this.
Yeah, Nigel can be quite stubborn sometimes. I get the impression it was stubborn that meets stubborn.
It was, until the second session. And then I liked him even less.
So you liked him even less than this second session, although you'd had this ha-ha moment?
Because I don't cry in public. I think that's been a problem ever since I was a child. I don't like to show public emotion with tears. And I was driving home from the second session, and I had two of the girls that were also in the course with me. I had to pull the car over, and I just sobbed and sobbed because the sudden realisation of how I felt was overwhelming, and I couldn't cope with it. And at that point, I disliked him even more because he'd made me cry. Yeah. This had made me cry. It wasn't actually him that made me cry, But yeah, it was just so overwhelming, and I felt stupid. I felt completely ashamed of, no, I don't know if ashamed's the right word. It's not shame. It's just I felt like I'd wasted so much time because it was so simple. It was so simple. Logically, it's so simple. Emotionally, it's so very, very difficult. And that's where I think my life was an emotional turmoil. It wasn't a logical, well-lived life. And I very quickly realised that, yes, what I had been doing, even though I was in familiar territory, you know, I mean, I was having sort of 20 panic attacks a day, couldn't go out on my own, you know, didn't go on a bus for 2 years because I was terrified.
You were a prisoner in your own home?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wouldn't go out at all. I was terrified of dying. I was terrified that my kids were going to be kidnapped. Everything was just complete anxiety. The doctor had given me tablets. You know, I'd almost come to the point where I think I was a bit of a hypochondriac as well, hypochondriac, because I didn't have normal thought processes. You know, I'd get a headache and I thought I had a brain tumour, and that was it. My game was, I'd get indigestion and think, this is it, I'm having a heart attack. You know, it was completely unbalanced.
Having said that, those sort of feelings are common. You wake up in the middle of the night with indigestion and you think, oh my God, I'm having a stroke.
Yeah, but it was for me, it was for everything.
Right.
Every day, you know, I walked up, this is how ridiculous it is, you know, I actually walked up to the end of my street, which isn't far, but I had to go down there to find my son. Now, I had a panic attack on the way there, and this is just down to the bottom of my street. And I kind of tripped a little bit and twisted my ankle, but it sent shooting pains up my calf. So instantly, I thought I had deep vein thrombosis. The logic wasn't there. You've just twisted your ankle, your leg's going to hurt. There was no logic. There was no calmness or anything in my life. It was completely hectic and chaotic. It was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. And I kind of, you know, I realised that what Nigel had said is yes, I was in familiar territory, but I was walking around in the dark completely. I would, you know, when you walk around in the dark, that's depression. It's the same stuff surrounding you, but if you can't see it, you can ignore it, but you've got more chance of actually walking straight into it and hurting yourself. Switching that light on isn't an easy mission. You know, it's not as easy as switching a light on, but sort of in sort of an analogy form, once you've switched that light on, it is still all the same old rubbish that surrounds you, but you can deal with it. You can see it. You don't bang yourself on it anymore. If something's in your way, you deal with it, you move it. And that way, you know, also, if at any point in your life you did end up back in a dark place, even for a short while, you've got less chance of banging yourself on stuff that you've dealt with. You'll come out of that you'll find your way back to the light switch far quicker. And that was kind of what it took. And then I started to embrace the programme and embrace my life.
How long did the programme last? From what you've just described, it seems it suddenly hit you at number 2.
It was a 6-week course.
A 6-week course. Did you have any ha-ha moments?
Lots of them after that. Lots of them. I think Nigel kind of, although I didn't admit it to him that he was right.
Oh no, you mustn't do that.
Not instantly. You know, I was gonna keep him hanging on for a bit, but he knew. You know, he knew that something had changed. I was far less argumentative. I wasn't as brash. I started to talk, you know, more nicely and more professionally, and started to sort of be me, and realised that I didn't need to be this person that everybody would be scared of because of what I would say, you know. And it was, you know, I had very much the attitude of, don't mess with Becky because she'll tell you exactly what she thinks, and it's, you know, and it's not nice, because I was very frightened of people getting close to me. So that was sort of the persona I put on, was so that people didn't get close to me and try and break down my barriers.
Is that because you thought people were going to hurt you again because of your background?
No, I don't know so much if that's all the reason. I think some of it is because I'd spent so long being somebody that I wasn't. Even though I sort of had 20 panic attacks a day, was on antidepressants, lived an awful life at home, didn't sleep, hadn't had my hair cut, didn't take care of myself, had no money, wouldn't go on a bus. If I came into an interview with somebody, I could look very confident because I'd had absolutely years of practice at that. And I would think I was frightened of people finding out actually that I wasn't confident, had very low self-esteem. When I went home, I cried. I didn't sleep. I wouldn't go on a bus. I wouldn't answer my door. I was in debt because I didn't pay my bills because I couldn't go out and pay them. And I was frightened of people finding that out because I wanted them to think I was this confident young woman that could do anything because that's what was in me. I always had that in me. It just didn't present itself. There was I felt like I was this sort of diamond, if you like, because everybody in their own right is a diamond. But, sort of when they say a diamond in the rough, I felt like I was a diamond that was at the bottom of this huge, great big building that had fallen. And nobody was ever going to find me, and nobody was ever going to get to me. I was just going to stay there. And that's, but I have to say, actually, full credit to Nigel, he's probably the one that kept digging and found it.
Did he, or was it you?
I think it was both.
He perhaps helped you to find you?
Possibly. I think, yeah, he definitely, maybe if you're talking in visualisation ways, then, possibly Nigel handed me the spade to dig myself out. That's how I would describe it. And after that, I enjoyed it after that. I enjoyed learning about how I could be. It gave me motivation. It made me realise actually I was a nice person. I really could do some good. It taught me some really hard lessons as well, that I'd spent my entire life being a victim, but behaving like one. And you get what you focus on. And I played on it. I played on being a victim because that's all I knew how to do. And it was, that's what I thought, it's poor Becky. She's been through so much. Let's do this for her. But actually now I've got, wow, look what she's doing, look what she's achieved, and it's so much nicer. It's fantastic.
What sort of things are you achieving now? Things that you wouldn't even dream about achieving before? My
children are so settled. They really are. I never have any issues with my children. I've got 4, normal, but very well behaved, very polite children that are very bright, excel at school in all different areas, but they excel at school and never have any problems with them. And I've got one that's approaching teens, and actually he's not bad.
Yeah, he's a teenager basically.
Yeah, he's not, but they're normal. Yeah. I very quickly sought out lots of counselling for my children through domestic violence programmes and play services and everything like that to try and sort of prevent what had gone on in their early years from affecting them later on. Have a very open relationship with my children. I pay my bills.
Good start.
I can go on a bus without even thinking about it. I have a car now, which, I can come to work on my own. I come to work every morning, and I try to inspire people that are in my community. I try and be an inspiration to other people, just to let them know that, if you suffer, it doesn't have to be the end of your life. Everything's about a choice. You have a choice. If you want to be a victim and you want to suffer, that's okay. Go and do that, but you don't have to. This is just a thought process, and I now firmly believe that you do get what you focus on.
What would you say to someone who is perhaps in the same situation that you were, and is looking at Beyond the Mask? What would you recommend to them?
Go on it. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. Find whichever service provider it is that's running the course, or, you know, if it's actual Nigel Booth that's running it himself, contact him on the website. You know, go for it. Ultimately, you have nothing to lose by going on it. You know, everybody moves at different paces. And things that, you know, Nigel, I don't think that I really fully use everything that Nigel said in the course, or sort of taught us in the course, because maybe it's not the right time to use it yet. You know, and some people might learn things that they'll use in 2 or 3 years' time when they'll think back and they'll remember it. It's a very hard course to forget, because it's a fantastic course, and I could think also, you know, ultimately, I think Nigel Booth's very hard to forget too. You know, his passion and his energy is just absolutely immense. You know, he's just this huge, great big abundance of energy and motivation. He's just fantastic. But I would definitely recommend it to everybody. I don't understand why this isn't so widely available. I don't understand why at all. Why more service providers don't jump on it. I just don't get it. So I think I'm going to have to go on a personal one-woman mission.
A one-woman mission. I like the idea. Go where no woman has gone before. How would you compare how you feel now to how you felt before?
I do know how being so low feels, and feeling like you've got absolutely nobody. And, you know, I said to Nigel when I first met him, and people think I'm strange, I felt very much like an orange that was in the supermarket, had been picked up, squeezed, dropped, you know, had kids' snotty noses rubbed on it, and had been dropped on the floor and kicked under the shelf, and some little supermarket attendants come along, pick me up and put me back with the pears. So it's like this battered, bruised orange somewhere where I didn't belong. And I could see the other oranges, and I wanted to get back, you know, and I wanted my peel to heal, and I wanted to be where I belonged, and I wanted to be the brightest, juiciest orange there. But trying to get over bananas and grapes when you're an orange is very difficult. And that's how I felt. But now I feel like I'm back with the oranges, and I feel like it sounds very odd, but I'm healing, you know, and I'm becoming juicy again. You know, I'm becoming where people actually want to buy me. They don't want to pick me up and squeeze me. They want to buy me and enjoy me. And I just want people to realise that if everything that they are going through is a thought process, it's just about thinking about things differently. And what you can achieve in your life, because life isn't a dress rehearsal. We only get one shot. That's it. And it's very hard. It's very, very hard, Keith, to come out of that. Very hard once you've got into that little bubble of depression and fear and anxiety. The thought of coming out of that actually seems more scary and more, you know, you feel more anxious about it. But when you come out of it, wow, it's fantastic. And I just really want other people to experience that.